Live with Dara on this Saturday, June 12th. Thank you so much for joining me. So if you were on last week, we had girls night in, and it was the ladies of the media talking about everything. Them talk about everything, and I didn't realize you had so many cuckoo persons in the media. So I decided, hey, let's get the guys on to talk about their experience. Check your send it to the other one, JP. Send it to my other phone. Alright? So I was like, let's get the guys on to talk about their experience, to find out what's going on with them and everything like that. And I got Archie and I got Vashon, and I'm hoping Jerry is not skipping out on me. Janella, send me the info. Let me see what's going on right now. And I got Jermaine, because Jermaine is a sportscaster. Yeah. So let me see what Janella is saying on it. Just 1 second, guys. Let me see what's going on. I'm gonna add yeah, let me see what happened. In the meantime, let me just add them until Daedran. I know Daedran is cuckoo. Janella worse. So let me add my two persons. No man, Vashon is on, Janella. Vashon is on. So you just need to get Jermaine for me. Alright, so let me add them now. Let me add them to the live. I'm excited. I'm excited. Ah. Hey, my bro. Archie, what you drinking, Archie?
Hi, how are you?
What is that?
It's a rum and coke.
Archie, you see what I'm talking about? That's what I'm talking about. Vashon, what are you drinking?
Orange juice. Here it is.
See? So they realize we're going tonight. So Archie drinking rum and coke and Vashon drinking orange juice. Vashon, I'm drinking beer. Go and put one of the beer in your fridge. Oh, you stab it up so you can drink the beer.
Dara,
right?
we can let me alone.
No, go for the beer now, Vashon. Oh, sorry. Archie, why are you so far? You can't even see. I know your background looks really nice, though.
I'm gonna try to move this.
Yeah, he wanted to show the background, Dara. That's what that's about.
Archie, you see Janella? Janella's like, ooh, Archie. Alright. So I'm trying to see if Jermaine is on. Hold on now. Let me see where Jermaine is. Alright, let me try send him one. I don't know what's up. Because I don't want to start with. You see, Archie, I'll have him ring like you know, Vashon. Look there.
I tell you.
No, man, I'm ready for this thing, man. Let me see. Let me try Jermaine. Maybe Jermaine know. Jerry, name. Let me see if he's on.
I have a table in it, that's the thing.
Yeah, man, I need to see. Archie and Vashon. Archie, go and sit. I think you need to refill your glass.
Hmm?
If him sexy one more time. Who, Janella? Which one of them?
Dara, you're a mess.
Alright, so let's start. Because I'm not getting... Oh, Vashon is usually talking. Alright, so you know what? Let's not wait anymore. If Jeremy comes on, I will just add him to the live. Gentlemen, welcome to Live with Dara. It is so nice to have you both on. I mean, it took well, not for Archie, but for Vashon. It's like Vashon is like, no, something no one come on. But it's really I'm really happy to have you. Oh, let me see if it's Jerry this now. No. Okay, so I'm seeing this other Jermaine Brown, and I'm not sure if it's him. Janella, call him for me there, please, because this person is not the person I follow. This is a different... You know what? Let me add him and see. If not, we'll just kick him off.
Mm.
Let me see if it's Jermaine. Let me see. Hold on. He's coming on. Hold on. Let me adjust my camera. No, sir.
Is that Jerry?
Oh, what is? This cannot be Jerry. So let me just. What is Jerry?
Anything that Jerry owes. All right.
Jerry, what happened to your 007 something?
007.
Yeah, 007. You stop using that one?
No, man, still using it. Just having some issues with that.
Oh, okay, okay.
So,
Jeremy,
yeah, so
what are you
so
drinking? Jeremy,
yeah.
what are you drinking?
Some whites.
Yes, you like it. We like it. Damien, I pick up the crew.
Yeah.
All right. So before we go any further, everybody, they know you on TV, but they really don't know you are, right? So let's start off with the journey to media. Let's just introduce Archie, Vashon, Jeremy to the people then. Vashon, let me start off with you. Talk about your journey to media. Nobody going on too much, you know. How you get the dropping it, or something that you always wanted to do?
You know, it's funny. I always tell people that I've always thought that I was going to be a journalist from I was very young, but at the time, I didn't know what that means. You know, when you're picking, you say, you know, you want to be like them people up on TV, you grow up and see them, but you don't really know what it takes behind the scenes and what kind of work you would actually do. You just want up on TV. But that was that when I was a child. But then I grew older and I started to get interested in storytelling. And so I went to Northern Caribbean University, did an internship at TVJ, and I got a job. And then I started working there. That was 2011. 10 years later, I'm still there. You have Archie on the live. Archie was actually my first boss when I went to TVJ. And of course, Dara, I worked with you for several years at TVJ, and we developed, you know, a close bond then. And of course, I also worked with Jerry at TVJ. And so that's the journey in a nutshell. Dara, you say you don't want me to talk about all of the details.
Just one more question. How is it working with Archie? Listen, we used to give Helen at the museum. How is it working with Archie?
That's an interesting question. I mean, Archie is brilliant. There's no question about it.
True,
but you know that you have to do your work. Else, yeah, Archie, I got in a problem.
That what?
You have to do your work. Else, yeah, Archie, I got in a problem.
True. It's true. People, Archie, miserably enough. Let me just tell you. Archie will in his office and he came out there talk. Dara, Jerry, let me put you because you're the sports guy there. So tell us about your journey into media.
Well, I started at JIS, straight out of UA. And then I was there for like maybe a year and a few months. Then I moved to TVJ in 2006. So, and that's where I really started in sports journalism because I was in news before, whilst at JIS. I got the option of doing both news, well, either news or sports. When I got to TVJ, I chose sports because that was, you know, and remains, you know, my big passion. And so, yeah, that's really started for me. If I could go a little bit back in sixth form, someone heard me reading one day and a classmate, I went to Monroe and we had a joint sixth form program with Hampton. And a young lady heard me reading in class one day and she said to me if I ever thought about being a journalist one day or a broadcaster. And so that is where I really started thinking about it when I was in lower six. And then, of course, went to UWI. And after leaving UA, I decided, all right, going through CARIMAC, I decided, all right, let me try and venture into it. And it's a blessing because a lot of persons who study journalism sometimes don't get to enter the field because it's very competitive and it's a small industry. So, you know, I got the opportunity pretty much shortly after leaving UA. So, you know, I remain grateful.
You know, you mentioned something that it's a blessing, and it's because media almost lost you to track and field, right? I mean, you were a track.
I think that's an exaggeration.
You could be the next Asafa Power. You could have been the next Asafa Power, right?
Hey, or put it this way: if it didn't work out on the track, well, besides make it work off the track, you know. But some way, somehow, some way, somehow, I'll be in sports and I'm gonna be inside the stadium and I'm gonna be at the football field, whatever it is, just to be involved, you know. And so it has happened.
All right, so aren't you have this thing now? It's not Jago, it's the San Jago. So all of them over there,
It's St. James to those who didn't go.
the San Jago High, right? I remember I saw Archie on that. This was at TBJ. I saw you on the school challenge thing, and I think Anik, you said you wanted to be you wanted to come in journalism. Was that the case, Archie? Tell us about your
I wanted to do what?
Go in journalism. You said that on school challenge.
No, I think at the sixth form point, that's when I understood. That's when I had a word for it. I really had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. In many ways, I probably still don't. When I was about 17, I always collected newspapers though. I always, I have scrapbooks. I always collected newspapers. I always cut out articles, and I like writing. And I like really good writing. So I think that's the love of journalism. But I was never able to identify it as a career. The closest to it was that I always wanted to do school challenge quiz because I always admired Dennis Hall, you know, the host of school challenge quiz eons ago. And yeah, that was the closest to sort of conceiving of myself as wanting to be in the media. When I got to 18, I had no idea what I wanted to do in school. But I was in school challenge quiz. I was in the quiz club, and a member of the club said, "Oh, you know, you can do this entrance exam down at Karamag, and it's basically general knowledge like you get in quiz club." And I was like, "Okay, cool, I can do that." And like literally, I went up to Karamag, signed up, went and did the entrance exam, and you had to pick the different technique areas. You could do radio or television or print, and it's on the spot that I thought, "Okay, cool, I'm just gonna print radio." I had no great plan. I had no great plan to be in journalism. In fact, I've always wanted to teach more than anything else.
Really?
So the idea was that, yeah, I'd go to Karamag, I would do that for, 3 years. I'd go to RJR and do RJR for 2 years, and then I'd go off and do a PhD. And it just happens that I never actually left RJR.
How long were you there, RJ? Without aging
17
yourself?
years. I'm old enough to have a plaque, so I was getting old. When I was younger, I used to see my father have this plaque when he.
That's a long service award?
Yes, long service award. Me, young me, and it said 27 years at Alcon because he used to work in Alcon in the cane fields, and I was like, that will never be me, never. That's foolishness. How could you do that? Why would anyone do that? And I have a long service award, like me, young me. So that was really my advent into journalism. I started out in 2001 doing radio, and I basically moved through the system to do other things. As RJR bought TBJ, I moved from doing general news reporting to doing headlines. I did Beyond the Headlines, and I went to television, went overseas on a scholarship for 1 year to London, came back, again did general news reporting in television, parliament reporting, and became news editor for about, just under 10 years. So I've had about a 17-year stint doing most of the programs.
So you have a whole adult right there, so.
Yeah. I'm aware.
So you all do radio and TV. I know Jerry does radio and TV, and it's the same for Vashon and Archie. And right. Jerry and Archie, you went to Karamag. Vashon, you went to NCU. What is?
You paused after the NCU, so why the big pause?
No. I'm not tell you no lie, I went to Karamag, but I must say, I have to big up the NCU people, because I like NCU's journalism training, because the NCU, actually, you know this, the NCU students, they normally come hit the ground running because they get the on-the-job experience. I know Karamag start doing that now, but before, NCU had that edge over Karamag as it relates to the training, the on-the-job training part of it. All right, let me ask you this. Let me start with you, Archie. What gives you that adrenaline rush? Like for me, adrenaline rush. Like for me, when we hear say a hurricane come, you hear about some shootout down the road. You say, yes, sir, you're saddled up and you're ready to go. What gave you that adrenaline rush in the news?
I'm pretty much the same thing, I would say. Not so much the hurricane, because I actually hate hurricanes.
Really?
Yes, I like to be in my house. I like to be in my house. Because, you know, hurricane comes and there's this inconvenience of there's no light, there's no water, there's not that. But the thing is that when you get involved in breaking news, there's a lot happening, so you sort of get lost in the moment. That's what I enjoy the most. Getting lost in the moment and then having to figure out different angles to stories. I'm really an ideas person, so I always use the example of Kirk Wright, and I say Kirk Wright is the one who wants to be a reporter. You know, that's what Kirk wants to be. He wants to be a reporter, wants to go out and talk to people. I don't want to do that. I love talking to people too, but I don't want to do the rigors of reporting every day. I want to come up with different ideas of stories that I can do. So it's really like, okay, cool, how can I do this? How can we do that? So I enjoy that aspect of the breaking news culture. Because once you have a breaking news item, then you have to figure out 10, 15, 20 different ways of doing it. And I enjoy that. And you constantly have to come up with new ideas. You always have to be innovating and figuring out how to do something new.
So you prefer the administrative part of it?
The what? Yeah, the administrative part of it and the ideas part of it and the storytelling part of it. You know, how do you tell a story in a different way? You know, journalism is presented as if a lot of it is new, but much of it is not new at all. You know, there's really nothing new under the sun. But in every story, there is a way of presenting it in a completely different kind of way and telling it in a different kind of way. And I enjoy that. I enjoy looking at how people tell stories, how, you know, you can communicate an idea that's an old idea in a completely new way that's fresh and that excites people. And that continues to happen. So they're like, it's like something that's been happening all the time, and it's the first time people are really noticing it. Like a good cover of a song. You know what I mean? Yeah. You've been hearing the song all along and you've been paying no attention to it. But all of a sudden somebody give a new version and it's like, wait, I've never heard this before, but of course you heard it a million times. That's what I enjoy. I enjoy coming up with something new all the time.
Okay. Damian Gordon, big up yourself. That's a colleague of ours who migrated. We know you miss journalism out here, Damian. You miss us and we miss you too. Jermaine Brown is not Jermaine. It's Jermaine Brown. What gives you the adrenaline rush?
There's nothing like breaking a story, you know. And I can remember, for instance, in 2009, there was, at the time, that's the same year Bolt went on to the world champs and broke the 100-meter world record for a second time after he had done it in Beijing. I broke the story of 5 Jamaicans who tested positive, you know, and that was the first time for me kind of breaking a story like that. And I remember the rush that I got from it and trying to follow the athletes whenever they had the hearing. And that was a bit new in Jamaica at the time in terms of athletes testing positive and so on. So, you know, there's nothing like breaking a story and getting that adrenaline rush. I mean, the Olympics comes every 4 years, and whenever that rolls around, of course, there's great excitement. Every 2 years, every 2 years, you do have the World Championships, for instance, in athletics. The World Cup is every 4 years. So live events are always good and being a part of that, where sports is concerned. But sports is more than just reporting from a live event and giving you results and so on. You know, it's about being in the trenches too, and unearthing stories. And so the rush you get from that, there's nothing like it, for sure. At least for me, at least.
Do you have a preference, Jermaine, in terms of football, track and field, horse racing, tennis?
Yeah. Well, track and field has always been a passion of mine because I took part in track and field in both high school and college.
Sorry.
So track and field as well.
So tell us what went wrong again.
More like what didn't go right. Put it this way. Look here, there's a huge transition that, you know, you have to make after leaving college and deciding to try and go pro, you know, trying to compete with it at a professional level. So whilst in college, and you might have your school who helps you with vitamins and gear and so on. Going pro is not an easy thing to do. And so Many do, many don't. As a matter of fact, statistically, even you see at these things, well, at high school level and college level, three out of 10, 3 out of 10 will make it. So, you have to prepare yourself to be all-rounded, and that's what I always did. I mean, I balance academics with athletics from the high school level, and this is something that, I always try to tell young sportsmen and women, try to have that balance, because if one side doesn't work out, you can always, have that other half, the other side to balance you and go into that.
I know, guys, I know you're saying get in the car. It's not me, say so. I know me. It was Nadine, big up Nadine McLeod and Karen Madden.
Yeah.
It was Nadine telling Karen to get in the car. That was the Tivoli incursion right there. Vashon, what gives you an adrenaline rush?
So for me, I like the big news events that you spoke about earlier on, but as I look back, I remember the coverage of big national events like Vybz Kartel's verdict. I remember Archie being on air, just spitting out information, joining you and Janella in the field. That's always something that I think about, because I really loved being behind the scenes and just seeing how all of that came together. But I also love long-form reporting, whether it is a documentary, a long feature, things that I've been able to do through all angles over the years. It sort of connects with something Archie raised earlier on, with nothing being new. You're reporting on these stories over the years, but you always think about one key problematic. How are you going to take our understanding of the issue further? And that's something that I constantly think about whenever I delve into these long-form reports. But I'm now being engaged more and more in political reporting. I'm sitting in for Andrea on the parliamentary reporting desk, and it's something that's interesting to me, just to see that process and to report on it. Yes, but long-form reporting is definitely what gives me the real rush in journalism.
Vashon, you're going so. You're very waiting in there. May I say, I know you come from upper rural St. Catherine there, so.
Riversdale.
You know? Pull that shirt here. Pull the button.
Proper, yeah.
Pull the button here. Pull the button. Archie, I want to play a little game with you. Archie.
Okay.
Sign out for me. Archibald Gordon, TVJ News. Sign out for me. Let me hear you.
Archibald Gordon, TVJ News.
No, say it again.
Archibald Gordon, TVJ News.
Say, sign out as Kirk Wright.
Kirk Wright, TVJ News. He says his name really quickly. He says Kirk Wright, TVJ News. It's something like that. His cadence is very quick.
Do Andrea.
Oh, okay. Well, Andrea has what I call a sort of... All right, no. Bear in mind, I have to talk to them people here now. Try to. So Andrea has a little bit of what I call a long cadence. So she says, Andrea Chisholm. She has a way of hitting. Andrea Chisholm, TVJ News. That's how Andrea says Andrea. That's what she says, Chisholm.
Vashon, you sign out.
Vashon Brown, TVJ News.
Oh yes, I see it here.
Did you hear that pause in between? Did you hear the pause in between?
All right, hold on. Yes, Janella, he's a scholar here. Janella, you're a scholar. Vashon, sign out as Janella.
News.
Say it again.
She does it really fast and sort of musical in a kind of way. General Press News, TVJ News.
Jerry,
it comes across very smooth.
May I come to you now, Jerry, because we have a hard one for you now. But Jerry, you sign out when we hear you.
Jermaine Brown reporting for TVJ Sports.
I see you say Jermaine Brown, TVJ Sports?
Nah, usually I say reporting for TVJ Sports.
All right. Sign out has oral. Sign out. Give me an oral, Tracy, sign out.
Oral no sign out to them, but if started thing like him coming, she like, well, you know. So that's how we always think. Every commentary. Every commentary go. Well, you know, I keep telling you, Shelley had praised the price. Well, you know. So and then he does a lot of ad libs. He does a lot of things on the spot. So, easy for to imitate him, but he always start every commentary by saying, well, you know. Yeah. So more time to see that sport department we just say, well, you know. I didn't know I we are talking to,
Or else
Yeah,
speaks in
man.
short bursts.
Yes, man.
Like 4
Yeah,
words
yeah.
and then 3 words and then it's like
Yeah,
how he speaks.
yeah.
Listen,
But the man with detail, though. Yeah.
a TVJ newsroom is insane. Let me tell you. So you have Archie who come out, run out of office, give the uppercut, then run go back in. Oral Tracy gets the uppercut. And he's like, and then German, you just give them like a slight remark there, and the newsroom mash up. I think persons who don't get the experience in newsroom, they're missing out on something because to start a conversation in the newsroom in terms of some debate about something, a murder. Because
it is remarkable that sometimes we're even friends. You know, when you were asking Jermaine earlier about the sports thing, and he's, you know how serious he got about the sport athletes. I tell this story all the time, so I'm going to actually say to you that if you want to piss off Jermaine, talk about an athlete not being good. Mr. One time the virgin nearly bite off my head, you know. He's like, wait, you ever run it? You ever run it? You can't run 20 minutes. Piss him off, tell him to an athlete can't run good. Because he takes it very, very seriously. Yeah, virgin, yeah, in the play.
Archie.
Yeah, I remember that.
You know how to tick off the sports guy, Archie. You know to tick off the sports guy.
Yeah,
you
man.
might be in there quiet, doing them thing, and Archie come out and say, there's some of them idiots. And it's just
What kind of story that? That's another sport.
Dara, you know that once you start up Tracy, you know, the conversation now go down.
Tracy and Brian.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, man. Load. You know, when I started, I remember when I started at TVJ and the first few days, it was like a culture shock because coming from JIS where, kind of quiet but when I started at TVJ and then the noise, the debates and the back and forth usually start around about 1, 2 o'clock, and people, the afternoon people start coming in. And if you're not used to that kind of thing, it will be a shock because you'll hear Dion arguing too about something. You hear Karen at the time. Janice Bob was, RIP, when she was alive, when she was there. Oh my. So it's just a huge melting pot. It's something to behold. And, I know a lot of persons would be shocked, but after a while, there's quiet because everybody have to go back to them work and it's work time now and we have deadlines to meet, Tracy always say use it as a warm-up, because he get the different views from people and then just melt them with his and create his commentary kind of thing, That is oral whenever he's debating and different type of advice. And I'm telling you, as Archie said earlier too, if you might think people might even fight. Not go fight, But listen, man. Very, very passionate. And then Archie sometimes would sit and him know what we talk about. So he just come in and just ribbing and just know when we just interject.
Because it's sports with them. No, you see, because there's competition. There's this competition between sports and news. As far as sports is concerned, news people them don't know nothing. And as far as we're concerned, I feel like them to over them sport. So like, what kind of sport that? Is that a sport? Is that is a sport where you're reporting on that? That's what we're like.
One thing I know what to say though, to everybody tuned in. Listen, sports journalism and being in news, and there's not a vast difference in terms of the basic tenets and the foundations. Right? See, we all Archie and I went to Karamak, I was at NCU. Right, when you're studying, all of us are studying the same thing. The same foundation, the same basic tenets of journalism. Because I've over the years I've come to realize that persons sometimes believe that there's a different requirement for sports journalism, where the foundation of it is concerned that you don't need to be qualified in terms of having a degree in media communications or mass communications at the time, or whatever it is called now, because over the years it has changed. But just to say that the basic tenets of journalism is right across the board. So whether you're in news or sports, they remain the same. The who, the why, the what, the where. They remain the same. The 5 basic tenets, they remain the same. So I have to point that out because some people might sometimes think sports journalism is something lighter and you know it's light-hearted and nice. No, it's not even a defense, you know. It's just to give you a bit of insight, you know. And sometimes I don't think you need to debates and you know, but at the same time,
I can now switch from news to sports.
I'll come from one.
So I can now switch from news to sports, and I'd be a good sports reporter.
Well, no.
It's so quick.
All right. So I want to continue on. So, Oral, I mean, I called in his name because I want to segue into something. Oral, me don't know which part Oral get them jacket from. Oral jackets are out of this world. Me don't know. I don't know. Me and him tell this. Him tell a designer, say, listen, go and find the ugliest materials and make me some jackets. I don't know. So let's talk about you guys now in terms of dressing. How do you guys maintain it in terms of, because you have to be on camera all the time. How does it work for you? Let me start with you, Vashan, and the feedback you get from the viewers.
So television is so interesting, Dara, in the sense that even if you're not noticing changes in your body, you notice it because people keep pointing it out to you. So I'll give you an example. Quite recently, I presented the news, and I actually didn't know that I was gaining muscle mass. And somebody called to say, yeah, I think the jackets are getting a little tight. And I actually didn't notice that there were changes happening. And so I tend to have to, you know, change my wardrobe as a consequence. So now I have like a new set of jackets because them can't fit me no more, them get tight. But I feel like you have to constantly be upgrading your clothes, and people really, really care about a nicely tailored jacket. So I have to focus a lot on, you know, ensuring that I get a good tailor, because I'll buy the clothes that I'm foreign and them can't fit you good. You really have to adjust them so that they can fit you. You know, and I've had to do that quite a bit over the past couple of weeks because of the changes that are happening in my body. Changes that I actually didn't even notice.
Yeah, too much. Archie and Jerry, I know you guys used to read the news in the shorts. Before you got to the set where you had to stand up and read. You guys were reading. Everybody see up here where you have your jacket and your tie and whatever. But down here, I think for Archie was the joggers. And for you, Jermaine, it was shorts, right?
Right.
Tell us about in terms of your dressing.
Yeah, man. You know, when it comes down to presenting, and especially for TV, Michael Sharp, you know, RIP again, said to me when I started out that it's 95% how you look, 5% what you say. Because after the viewer recognizes that you can present and them like how you sound, then it becomes the suit you're wearing, how your ears look, if you line up and stuff, you know. So he pointed out that to me early, so I realized, listen, I have to make sure it's look good, you know. Yeah. And so after a while now, I realized, you know, for us men, it's a little bit easier than for the women, because we can get away with probably, if you have 3 suits, you have a black one, you have a gray one, you know. So sometimes the viewer doesn't even realize it's the same jacket you have on, you know, like before, but it's a different tie. So it gives a different look, you know. For the female presenter, it's much different. They get far more, you know, criticism and scrutiny than us. But so us male presenters, we can get away with a few things. But nonetheless, if you have a particular style, and then after people, you know, persons pick up on it. For me, for instance, over the years, people always like how I line up my hair and stuff like that. So
you always have this part right here, Jerry.
Yeah, and 3 on the back and things, you know, on either side.
But nobody knows you in
so
the back.
So people.
Nobody knows you in the back.
I saw you think. I have my time to turn the angles, you know. Yeah. So people see me out and like I might be at the supermarket, and I remember every aisle I went So this virgin just see him. I said, and until he realized I see him. So I said, but I think my follow, you know, it's just what my girlfriend always say, you know, need if a line up like how Jermaine don't line up on TV, man. So when we see it, so when we see it, we couldn't believe it. Actually, I see it in real life, you know. So I have to just tell you still. So when we go Bob, we try to line up like you, kind of thing. So yeah, man, we set trends though. We set trends while on set, you know. Yeah.
What about you, Archie?
I mean, I
know
don't.
you. You have a blue jacket and you have a black jacket. And you have a khaki jacket.
I do. I actually focus more on ties. I'm a tie guy. I love ties. I love yeah, it's just ties. And as you say, I usually have on like either joggers if it's on a weekend or you know, jeans. Jeans like I have on now. And then you have a shirt. And the illusion of television is that you can have a crushed shirt because you're really just having this strip right here that's gonna show, and then you're gonna have your tie over the strip, and then the jacket's gonna close around it. So you actually don't need to even iron your shirt, and your shirt need to be tucked into your pants, for instance. And you can walk on set in that general.
Let's all the secrets,
if you're on time. But if they ever make a change in the newsroom, in the news flow, and that requires you to go, you can't get up. You know, if they say all of a sudden do a standing shot, you're like, can't do a standing shot, but I'm on jeans, and you can negotiate that with with the production crew. I mean, for me on television, I didn't pay I didn't pay as much attention. I love ties generally, so that's really my thing.
Yeah, you have a drawer full of ties, right?
Yeah, man, I love ties. I love ties. I have tons of ties. The only thing with me and TV in terms of that is hair. You know, I've had plenty of different kinds of hairstyles on TVJ. I have people complaining to me. So that's the experience I have with people. I don't have so much people writing me and talking to me about jackets, etc. And, you know, what you wear. I have people commenting on the ties, for instance, because of what Jermaine said. You know, and in fact, I think there was an experiment where I think it was an Australian TV anchor, morning TV anchor, and he wore the same jacket all year, and nobody noticed because he was a man. So as a man, you can pretty much wear a blue and a black jacket for an entire year, or even one jacket, and no one is really paying attention to the jacket. So we don't pay attention to that. Then we notice you're tie though. So if you wear they're like, okay, let's see that tie there. Okay? So you actually have to have a lot of that. Where television is concerned, my experimentation has always been my hair. Right now I have this hair and it's like twisted, but before I've been bald, like Archibald, and I have, you know, I've grown my hair high up, and I've had like a beard that people have asked me, you know, if me and my barber, you know, big up my barber Garfield, by the way. If me and my barber, if me and my barber malice, things like that. There was a long period when I was growing like a high top, and that was the entire thing.
And that's my next question, because last week, Maddox Dejan on there, right? Last week, Dejan and I were talking about like the natural hair and how it wasn't so acceptable on TV when we just started out, in terms of, you know, with me with my natural hair going back, Deja with her locks, Janella with her locks. I remember being in the newsroom, and I know you three are very fashionable, so we call it the sponge something. We sponge and it curl up and look with in there. What was the reaction from the viewers, first of all, to the sponging of the hair? And your parts. What was the reaction of the viewers?
That was a huge controversy, actually, because what happened is that I left for a year now and went overseas on a cheapening scholarship. That was 2006, and then came back. So me there foreign, and me decided to not spend no 13 pounds on hair. So I'm just growing my hair, and I come back with like just hair that's uncombed. Because there, you know, when I left, there were people telling me that I couldn't, you know, you're not gonna grow your hair, and I'm like, I'm gonna grow my hair. So I started out as a challenge to the late Janice Budd, and when I came back, I had this, you know, big hair, and I wanted to cut it into a high top, and I wanted to wear it on national television, but people were like, okay, television's not ready for that. So I cut it into a little bit of a high top, and I pursued that for a long while. And, you know, both internally and externally, people used to complain about it. After the newscast, one man called once and said that he couldn't talk to his son about his hair because the TV anchor is on air and him hair untidy and, you know, things like that. And I always, and when I was, if you want to grow a beard, I've always wanted to have a beard that's like down here. And my hair doesn't grow in a sort of very neat fashion. So it's going to be bushy. And that was a controversy as well. So I had a period after coming back when I was like Mr. Consciousness and hair consciousness. And anything you said to me, I'd be like, oh, you have a problem with black people here. Because if I were white, my hair would be straight. I wouldn't have any problem with it. And that was me internally for a long time. And I just persisted at it. And for a while, and after a while, some people really, really liked it, but you know, they never really cared because I was like working it. And it was just
Vashon, you try sponging your hair, but the sponge never really worked because you have different texture, right? And you try sponging.
In here tough, and that's a big
tough. Sponging not working all kind of hair, right?
I have to know that the sponging actually worked for me. Go away. So, but I also went to the UK and didn't go to the barber much as well, like Archie. So I actually grew my hair as well when I was a student in London. And I came back to Jamaica with my ear, ready for the road. I went to the barber because I wanted to take it down just a notch. So I said, cool, I'm gonna make it be a little more conservative. I'm gonna take it down, and I used the sponge brush, and I read with it a few weeks. Few weeks passed, nobody said that. I said, cool, look at it, good to go. Attitudes toward, you know, black hair change, and we're good as a society. You know, the fact that I left for a year mean that the society really changed. And then, a couple weeks down the line, I got a few calls from people saying, okay, we would appreciate it if you actually comb your hair on TV. And I'm like, okay, at one point did I go on the TV without, and I started looking back in my mind, no, like, when did I go on TV without combing it? But I have a strategy. Usually when I read on a Saturday evening, I'm moving out of the barber chair right on the news set. And apparently the complaints came for Saturday evening, just as the sponge brush going on my ear. I'm sit down. But people apparently don't like the sponge brush. I don't know. But Archie's definitely correct with the attitude towards black hair. And I think they have that argument.
Sponge doesn't work with certain texture here. And that was your challenge.
You know, I can show you the pictures. Them actually look really, really good.
No, Janela, say it look good now. Jeremy, what about you?
Yeah, well,
did you have any, did they have any issue with your high top and your part and those things?
Well, firstly, I didn't go to London, you see. I'm here in Kingston, right? So maybe it's a London thing when they come back, you know. By the way, big up Celebrity Cuts in Pembroke Hall. That's where I've cut my hair for the last, well, for as long as I've been at TVJ. So Celebrity Cuts in Pembroke Hall. No, I've never had any complaints really. As a matter of fact, most persons have become used to seeing me with my lineups and so on. And I try not to go overboard with it because I know that for us male presenters, the major issue that they take with us is the hairstyle. If the hair too big, too, you know, like Archie mentioned, or the beard is too thick, you know, they take, you know, and it's more internal, you know. It might be maybe one or two persons who might call and complain, but then the internal forces make it seem like a whole nation have a problem with the hair still. So for me, it's not here nor there at times. Yeah. But it pays to pay attention to your hair and your entire attire and your look, because you never know the opportunities that might arise, you know. Big up H4 Synergy, who've been in touch with me of late in terms of you know, wanting to work with me. So yeah. So you know, it pays as male presenters, since we're that part of it, to take good care of how you look, because like the late Michael Sharp said, after a while is 95% how you look, 5% what you say. So yeah, it pays to go on, and after all, you have a reputation, and you have to. No, that's the tricky part. So, and Archie and Bashan would know. You know, you've developed a reputation, and people like seeing you a certain way. So anytime you try to move away from that, so when Archie used to have him bald head, I used to get a lot of complaints because maybe you know people love it. Yeah, I mean, but as soon as him decides, say, yeah, I'm gonna grow him here, you know, them are a problem because sometimes people sometimes take a while for like changes. Yeah, and adjust to the new change, you know.
All right, so in the newsroom, we used to the calls them coming in fast and frequent. Complaints. Can you recall any complaint, any jaw-dropping complaint? They like, this person really called a complaint about that? As it relates to you in the newsroom? Any of you? Bashan?
No, Archie can take that one.
No, that would just be yeah, I get most of the calls came to me, especially when I was news editor. I would say the one was the one there are two in particular. One relates to Janela, who is actually on the call.
What else about Janela?
Let's tell you this about Janela. Put me out. Maybe I defend her because she don't know. One, it was the one where the man said that he couldn't talk to his son because the news anchor had untidy hair, the one I explained before. And Janela used to have these little neck pieces. No, the neck pieces. The little neck pieces that you were. And somebody wrote in once, them don't like Janela neck piece. And yeah, it's just like little random stuff like that. Generally speaking, when it's not about news matters, it's about things like that. Or it's about how you pronounce words. So there was someone who wrote to me who said, you keep saying stick around. It sounds really, really informal. And people are also very, people have ways of saying things. So English evolves, but the people don't necessarily evolve with it. So when you have a word that is like, it's introduced into the lexicon, they're like, no, that's not a word. This is not a word. Like concretize is not a word. That's not a verb. And there are people like that. They're really, really passionate about the brand. And they're really passionate about words and sentences and grammar. If you get grammar wrong and if you pronounce words incorrectly. So there are a lot of words, for instance. I mean, Jermaine can take this because there was one with Jermaine with name, the French runner.
Christophe
Lemaitre. And all of those polysyllabic foreign words. People, especially people who really follow the news and who really, really follow the sports. Yeah, they have a lot to say about how you pronounce words and whether you stress them properly. And for a lot of people, young people are never as good as it was in the past.
Never, I know. Jeremy, as a sportscaster, you have all of those.
You see all over social media.
Oh yeah,
those would be social media people. There's a different level. Them say anything will come after them.
Jeremy, as a sportscaster, you have all of those foreign names to call. I like all them, them Indian cricketers and Pakistani cricketers and them something there.
And Sri Lankan.
With some names with long form writers that have up all of the alphabet. How you do it?
Well, after a while, once you're in sports, then you know how those names are pronounced because you'll hear the commentators pronounce them, and it's a thing you do. It's a thing you do from day to day, so you get used to the names. However, there will always be names, no matter how much you are familiar with them, that you if you're not careful, you'll mispronounce them. Archie mentioned the French, and remember, this is French. We're an English-speaking nation, and someone took an issue with how I pronounce the name of a French sprinter, right? So his name is actually, and the person who took issue, he was even pronouncing it wrong as well. Because I went and did my research, right? So the sprinter's name is Christophe Lemaitre.
Don't call him.
No, when I said the name, but the person was saying that it's Lemaitre, like you say, Maitre D, right? That the way to make Maitre D saying it's Christophe Lemaitre, right? And took huge issue. He mentioned Archie's name in that complaint and said Archie and I are misleading the nation's youths. Yeah. Yes, he just that person. I remember distinctly just took the opportunity to just try and knock out the two of us one time. I mean, it was forced that right? I think so. Of course, I went and did my research, and it's Christophe Lemaitre. But people will take issue even with the foreign names, and I mean, but they're locals too, because I remember there's a place in, I think it's out of Portland, right? And there's a team called Alos Valley, right? So it's ALEOUS. They have a football team. So I was pretty much yeah. So I was, new, relatively new. So I was reading over before I went on. So it wasn't spelled that way, right? So it was spelled on the script. It was spelled ANEOUS. So I was asking, sure, so I saw this team in front of, sure, so I saw this team. I was saying, yeah, man. So I went on, and the story came up, and I see the name of the team I come with. I say, is this true? As I said, trust your reporter, So I just said with Lusto and Gusto, Enos Valley defeated.
I know that's so funny.
Yeah, so as soon as I came up, the phones were ringing. People say, I disrespect the name of the because the community Twitter. It's Enos Valley. But I went on and I said, Enos Valley, So yeah, that was an embarrassing moment. But I mean, I learned from it still, But my thing was said, trust your reporter. After a while, if you check and you can't, if the reporter says, so it is pronounced, and that's what I heard, and you are because remember now, us as presenters, if there is any misinformation or mispronunciation, we take it for it, not the person who wrote the story. Because we don't present only stories that we write. We present stories that others write as well. But when the complaints come in against the persons who presented that particular story. Almost always. Yeah, the viewer not think about who wrote the story. No. You presented. You said Jermaine Brown. I heard Jermaine Brown say Enos Valley, and the place is not Enos Valley. It's Alos Valley, that kind of thing. So, just have to take a hit for the team and just continue rolling.
I remember Cockburn Pen. That one got everybody called the place Cockburn Pen.
But it's Coburn Pen.
But it's actually Coburn Garden. See me as a board.
Coburn Garden, yeah.
Gordon.
Dara, you remember the major one I had?
That's what I wanted to ask you. Which one is that?
Before I went to the UK, I was doing the final few newscasts I had before I moved on. And I don't know how this ended up in the script, but it ended up in it. When in that country I want to chip the ice, they use the ice brick. And I ended up when I got up there, the phones were blowing up social media. Like the news was like a crash.
Hey.
Because they were just so shocked that the news presenter ended up saying ice brick. Like on what possible basis did you end up reading ice brick? And they were like, even if you say ice brick, you should have known this. And I remember feeling so down about this. And Dion was like, you can always prick yourself up. It's kind of joke.
Because the newsroom is a no chill zone, right?
No chill.
Yeah,
Hey, one time, Dara, remember we had the smart board, the first smart board for the election, and I'm like, okay, let's zoom into Hanover. And I tap it, no Hanover. Okay, let's zoom back into Hanover. But it's me come up here. That is Andrea, who was at JIS at the time. This is Andrea Chisholm. I can't even hear a sentence Andrea is making because Andrea is dying And the whole of behind her, you can hear the entire GIS room. They're dying. I said, me shame, me not even go back to the newsroom. I spent about
And you know,
30 minutes or like
that's
through the day because I'm
something
like,
people never
when I
forget.
go back in there, so I know so the people in my sports seat. And as we walk through the door, it's gonna be pure. Yeah, Hanover. That's what we're like.
And Dara, even now, when we're preparing for elections, people always ask me, so is Archie going to be on the smart board? How's that going to go?
You see, these boo-boos. Okay. What has been your most memorable moment in media? Jerry, let me start off with you.
Me? There are a few, there are a few highlights and high points. Like I said, breaking that news about the 5 Jamaicans who are tested positive. But even before that, there was a story about a former Wolves athlete who got shot whilst attending university in the US. He left campus and was going to a store and he got shot and was hospitalized, and his mother wanted to go and see him. But when she went to the embassy, they weren't willing to give her a visa. And I remember doing the story, and within a week, after carrying about 2 different stories, she was able to get the visa, and she went over and saw her son, and I remember meeting at the airport and so on. So, and that was early out. World Championships in London, Bolt's last race in London. I was there, as a journalist to cover it and see it. That was a high point too. And of course, being Journalist of the Year, being voted Journalist of the Year in 2014. Yeah.
You were JOY?
Yeah.
You were
Sorry?
JOY? I didn't know this.
Yeah. Sports Journalist of the Year. Yeah, 2014. And then I was shortlisted the following year again. So, those have been some of the highs, for sure. Highlights.
Bashan, what about you? I know yours. Archie, you know Bashan's. Little boy.
Little boy.
Little boy. Bashan, what was your
I actually wasn't going to say that one at all. I actually forgot about that one.
That one gone down in folklore, man. People now forget that.
Yeah, I actually forgot about that one. But I mean, there are 4 quick ones that I can think about. You remember when we were covering Hurricane Sandy? That one was a big moment for me because it was like my first time going out in the field covering a hurricane, and just the experience of that moment was really, really valuable for me. And then I ended up doing a documentary on Augustown, which Archie, I always thank him, guided me through, which ended up being a very successful project, one in Jamaica and in the Caribbean. So that was a really, really big moment, I think, for my career. But, recently I participated in the general election debates, which was also, I think, an interesting moment in journalism for me. So those are the 3 quick ones.
Archie, you have to dig deep because you have 18 years to search through, right? What's your most memorable? Let's give the top 3.
I would say most of it is actually the work that we did on all angles. News is really, really difficult overall. And it's constant. So it's this sort of constant excitement and things, come. There are always these moments. It would have to be the cartel trial, I would say, first of all. It was such an extraordinary moment in terms of what it was like on television. It was the first time we were sort of having the coverage of a court case that was using voice notes. I remember writing a headline, we cut up lizard, fine, we chop up lizard, fine, and spending all the time first writing it and then trying to make it sound authentic because, you're saying it in patois at the beginning of your newscast. We chop up lizard, fine, and actually rehearsing it and then sounding a little bit too Englishy, proper English. But that was an entire moment because we were running towards the end of the coverage was live. We weren't able to prepare for it the way that we wanted to. So we had to go into downtown Kingston before the police had locked off downtown Kingston. Because people in support of Vibes Cartel would have come and disrupted downtown Kingston. And as a news center, bringing an entire bus, a broadcast truck into an area like that is very, very expensive. So we had to make the decision, you know, do we bring the truck in one day earlier? Because that's a very expensive venture. I don't think people understand how expensive television is. So we did that, and then we had the live coverage, and the live coverage ran from about 4 o'clock in the afternoon straight until 7 o'clock. So basically we were running right into the start of the newscast. We didn't have an opportunity to write the news. We were creating the news at that moment. You know, the current Spencer trial was another example of that. You know, just a completely live moment, just completely live news as it is happening. And as a presenter, you have to be making it up. There is no script of this moment. So you're really talking and you're trying to sound, you know, you're trying to sound composed. I think I put a wreath in a cenotaph before, instead of a wreath on a cenotaph, or a cenotaph into a wreath, and all sorts of foolishness like that. You know, you say a lot of nonsense like that. And I think, but I think the biggest moment for me, actually, apart from those live moments in news, is actually the bleaching phenomenon, which was work we did on all angles. True or false. You know, this was an idea that I had years before, because I used to do step class back at where is it called, this gym. And we used to, after step class, we're exhausted and we're down at the steps one day, just sitting down. And a lady said, you know, downtown there are these people who just wrap up in all of these clothes because they are, you know, they're bleaching. And I had that idea from then. I was like, oh my God, if we had that and we're able to tell that story in that kind of way, follow someone through that process. Just as I said, you know, it's not a new story, you know, but it's to tell the story in a different kind of way. And it took us years to actually get it done. But when we got it done, the TVJ website crashed. I went on vacation in Canada later on in the year, and people were talking about the bleaching phenomenon. It won, I mean, just every award, including some that are behind me. You know, it won PAJ awards, it won CBU awards. It was just such an extraordinary piece. I worked with Dion Jax Miller on that one, and Camille Gale as well. And one of our colleagues, Arthur, all said to Dion, you know, you may as well retire. You will never do anything this good again. Yeah, that's the end of it. And that was a real moment, because we're able to tell an old story, but in a completely new way. Everybody was watching it. You know, when you write your story and you go on social media to see how people are reacting to it, and then I cuss it off. But sometimes people are on social media and everybody's talking about your story, and you feel like something that you have done has had that kind of impact. It feels good. It feels bad when I'm cuss you out, but it feels good when they're watching it. Everybody talk about it. In the group, people say, I watch TVJ. That was that moment for me. And I don't think I don't think I've had a moment like that since. That was quite a moment.
You know, actually, you mentioned something that a lot of people don't know or fail to realize, is that sometimes when you're doing some of these stories, these investigative pieces, they take forever. I hear people bashing and say there's no media in Jamaica and there's no investigative thing in Jamaica. What say you to persons like that? Archie, let me start off with you.
No, man, there's definitely investigative journalists in Jamaica. There are lots of reporters who are on a daily basis trying to get it done. I think it's important for people, though, and I do media training now, so I teach people about news, and one of the things I try to teach them is I teach them what news is, and I teach them about newsrooms, because I think part of the challenge is that people think that that is a CNN. It is not CNN. You know, on any one product, and I was a CNN follower, and any one product like show at CNN, there could be 100 and odd people. On a show, one show on the entire channel. The people in a newsroom at TVJ, like the news staff, is probably about 8 people. 8 people producing content for multiple shows. So that is actually the real comparison. So you have the 8 people are the same people reading the news. They're the people on the prompter. They're the people running the machine that plays the clips. They're the people assembling the stories. They're the people going on actual assignments. They're working across shifts. I do not think people have the sense of the kinds of resource constraints that limit the capacity to do investigative journalism. I'm actually surprised that there's any at all, because you have 8 people in a newsroom who are doing first news. In the example of TVJ, first news update, midday news, primetime news,
And then the
news
10
at 10.
o'clock news.
Not to mention the sports people. They have 40 products across multiple stations. 40
Far less people.
No, it's 40 products, right? It's 40 products.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
Yeah,
40 different sporting disciplines.
40
Yeah.
different sporting disciplines to cover across multiple stations. So,
But to be exact, 44.
44.
Yeah.
So it takes a whole lot of effort. And in fact, the thing you find, and I find as well, because when I was a student overseas, I spent about a week at BBC Caribbean, and I was bored as a consequence. You know why? Because when you're a cub reporter at TVJ,
You used to do
you have all
everything.
of, and all of a sudden you're in a newsroom. The foreign people them have it nice. You're in a newsroom and you have one thing to do. You don't know what to do with yourself. You don't know what to do with yourself because you're so accustomed to having so many different things to do. So there is investigative journalism. It just takes a lot more effort because the day-to-day as well requires so much. And of those 8 reporters, you don't even have 8 cars. You know,
Right.
you probably have 2 cars. That are taking you on assignment. So if you take one out of that to do a story like the Augustine story that Basham is doing, it's a real sacrifice. It's a real sacrifice. It's a challenge, you know. But there are people out there doing good work in spite of all of that.
Right, and I also think part of the problem is really what people term as investigative journalism. I had a conversation with Dion just the other day, and I was telling her I think we have a very narrow view of what investigative journalism is. If it is not bringing down some politician or leading to somebody being fired or resigning, then they perhaps don't see that as investigative work. I was having this conversation with her in the context of the cockpit controversy documentary that she did. And I was saying to her that sometimes you might have a work or a project and you don't enter it in the PAJ's investigative journalism category because you don't think it fits the profile of what people generally understand to be investigative journalism. But as we spoke about earlier on, these kinds of feature type stories, they are still investigative in nature in that they also requires a lot of research. They're bringing new information to light. They're taking our understanding of the particular issue beyond what we already know. And so, you know, a lot of that work is happening.
Well, I think us as media practitioners, we're easy targets, you know, for persons to say, well, there's no investigative journalism in Jamaica. And then we're in traditional media, but there's social media now, which is out and out competition for us. But whilst persons can get away with just posting news and whatever they want to on social media without anybody to check the facts, without anybody to check how they went about acquiring or putting together that story, you know, it's kind of loose. And it's something that irks me a lot. So whilst we would have gone to university and studied and, you know, we came to the proper channels, our profession is one that persons come through the side door and all of a sudden they're journalists because and there are different aspects of journalism, you know, entertainment journalism. Might have someone who knows law, so whenever there's discussion about law, then they'll be called upon and persons start seeing them as journalists. They're not. No, they're not trained as journalists. And as Archie pointed out, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes with limited resources that persons wouldn't be aware of. And sometimes when we're able to carry through and be successful with a story after months of research or even 2 weeks of doing proper research and work, you know, we have to feel very much satisfied because we know the tremendous work that goes on behind the scenes, and persons won't be as appreciative. They see the final product, but in getting to that, there's so much that goes into it with limited resources.
Yeah, and if I can jump in there, sports people are remarkable, for instance, in their coverage of the Olympics. You know, in Olympics, you have 2 people, you know, people don't know this. So you have a reporter like Jermaine and then a cameraman maybe like an Oral Napier, probably your best cameraman. And they traveled across the world to go to somewhere like Moscow or London or whatever. And that same reporter has to be covering for radio. You have to be covering for television. You have to be covering online. You need to be responding to Instagram because this is what your listeners and your viewers expect. They don't care about the problems that you're having. It's their
There you go.
understanding that you need to be where they are. That's the job.
Right.
That's a job.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you have one reporter who is tweeting, who is collecting audio, who is doing an interview. So you have to get
Doing the side stories too. What's happening in Paris. Give us an idea of what Paris is like during the World Championships. And hypothetically, but yeah, that's very much true. Yeah, man.
All right. Have you ever been pressured, or have you ever felt pressured to compromise your integrity? You have a good story and somebody come and say, yo, Archie, drop the story there.
No, I can't say that I have been. I did have an occasion. Hold on, let me think.
Or somebody who threatened you?
Well, there was one time I felt like I was being threatened. Me not call no name, I can't afford no lawsuit. That's the other thing. People don't really understand that.
Don't call no name. LiveWithDara don't give a sponsor yet. Don't call no name.
There was one time I had accosted someone who I think it's in Parliament, and I felt like I was being threatened. I was distinctly afraid because of what I was going out to do. But no, I really haven't had those moments overall. There have been moments when the political, because the politics is really interesting. Everybody, the Jamaican people have an amazing knack to forget things. So you're a PNP station while the PNP are in power, PNP are in power, and then you're a JLP station while the PNP are in power, and everybody just completely seems to forget that 4 years ago they were saying the opposite. So there do tend to be periods when we're covering like a political party conference. I know Janella, who's on online watching as well, has had periods when you're even like going down to Gordon House when there's the opening of Parliament and the political supporters are rowdy. They won't necessarily attack you, but they're rowdy and they're like, yeah, PNP station, yeah, JLP station, and they don't remember things like that. Like literally last week you were saying the opposite, or a couple of years ago, because the government in power always gets more scrutiny because they're the government. That's what you do. But and you see that happening in the local media now. By the way, there's a lot of resistance and there's a lot of people are targeting us and harassing us, and some of those people are forgetting that a lot of people are forgetting that was being said in the opposite way when the other party was in power, because that's the job. You have to hold their feet to the fire.
Bashan, what about you? Before I go to Jerry, have you ever felt threatened? Or you have your integrity?
We can't say no, We can't say no.
You can't say no, Bashan. You can't say no.
Why can't I say no?
Young man, I've never been disrespectful. I've been around the world.
So there was an incident in 2013, November of 2013. I still remember the month and the year, where my editor at the time, Archibald, sent me on an assignment in Rosetown in St. Andrew. These are very, very important questions. So, let us talk about it. What do we want to find out? What are some of the questions that we want to ask? Because these are important questions for the Prime Minister. At the time, I think there was concern about Richard Azan and some shops being constructed in Clarendon at the time. And I went to approach Mrs. Simpson-Miller, asking her, why was Richard Azan reinstated as I think, state minister at the time, given these allegations raised by the then contractor general that what he had done was tantamount to corruption, I think the OCG said at the time. So I went up and I, approached, asking my questions.
Wait, and this was you 2 years in, right?
Sorry?
This was you, a young, fresh journalist, 2 years in.
I was 2 years in the job. I was 2 years in the job because I started
ask her this first, because if you ask her the other question first, you're not going to get to her. So ask her this first.
Yeah, so I was like, ask her about the water project first, which I did. Yeah. Tell me about this water project that you're launching here in Rosetown. And she did willingly about the water project. About it. And then I said, okay, so why did you reinstate Richard Azan, given the concerns raised by the OCG? And then the interview started to take a different turn. She said, okay, I'm not going to answer you on that. If I answer you on that particular issue involving the OCG, that's what you're going to carry for your newscast, and I want the water project to be carried. So I said, no, man, Mrs. Miller, we're carrying both of them. But what is the rationale for doing this? And that's when it got, testy, her bodyguards intervened. One held on to my arm. The support staff also intervened. And before I knew, it was a big national discussion. My family members were so afraid. My father called me almost every morning. My mother called. Everybody wanted to know. They also wanted to know whether I was living in certain volatile areas because they're also fearful for what could possibly happen to me. And I remember I actually also took the decision to show the unedited encounter at the top of primetime news.
Oh
and so people who didn't get to see it, it wasn't a story that was put together or anything. It was very much unedited, and people got to see the entire exchange to make up their minds. And so the country was split. So there was one side that said, okay, the journalist was correct here. There was another side that said, okay, no, he shouldn't have. And it was one entire discussion. And I sat at home, I listened to some of the radio commentary, and until it got a lot for me, I had to tune out a lot of it and, just went about my life.
Oh, gosh. But I'm sure that has helped you to be a better...
for a young reporter to go through a lot of that.
Huh?
Actually, your fault.
Bashan deserves an award for how he conducted himself in that encounter. Because, I mean, I don't know if you got the award yet, but, if you haven't, then they owe you one. Because I don't think I would have held my cool during that whole encounter. And so Archie sent the right person to cover that aside with. So big up to Archie. It's good to know your team members, But for me in sports, no. And you point to maybe Paola. One thing that is constantly spoken of and we're reminded about is, we're not about Paola. We're not a PR firm. So sometimes we'll have competitions going on and we won't even mention the name of the sponsor because that sponsor has nothing to do with our sports cars. So we mention just the competition and not the name of the sponsor, and persons might take issue with that. For instance, those donating money and so on to whatever the cause might be, But we tend not to mention the name of the sponsors. And I know the same goes for news, when it comes down to payola, it's something that's considered very serious, and we are held to account, so it's something that we try to definitely avoid. In terms of a physical confrontation, not necessarily. I remember being inside the stadium at a track meet, and there was some live streaming going on, and me and my cameraman, big up Delroy Higgins, two of us were there, and big up Higgins. One of the persons who claimed he was on the organizing committee came across, and he was saying, well, we don't know about TVJ having first rights to interviews, because we're streaming live, but whilst talking to us, he started moving Delroy's camera and so on, and Delroy saying, no man, you can't do that, you leave my camera. But no man, you can't stay so, and I mean, I stepped in and told him that, well, the camera, it has to stay there. I might not have said it like that. I might not have said it as clear. I made it known that we're going nowhere. Right? No. We're going nowhere. I'm staying right here. Right? And when he realized I weren't backing down, him just go about him ways. However, persons were looking on, and I remember Garth Gale, who is now president of the J3s, came across and said he was observing the entire thing, and he's glad that it never resulted in any physical confrontation and so on. But he was respectful of how we went about it in terms of not moving, because in truth and in fact, those are some private persons who they weren't even aware of, but they were claiming that they were there too. Right, so we were in the right, So as far as the dangers of the job is concerned, I mean, not much.
All right. So Archie, Jeremy, and Bashan. Normally, I allow some of the persons on the live to ask some questions. So guys, I'm going to say you can use the question icon now and send in your questions. And Archie, you've been sipping all night. You are allowed, if there's a question that you don't want to answer, you can just sip.
Okay,
And you don't, yeah.
Oh,
But
that's good.
You're allowed.
Is this an advertising program?
No, hold on. No.
Everybody has to pop in. Hold on.
I have a
My boys today, see me.
Fashion, you can sip the orange juice. You have a
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay? So you are allowed 3 sips. After that, you have to answer, right? So you decide how you want to use up your 3 sips. We haven't reached there yet because they're sending me in the questions.
We're keeping spirited though.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Keep it spirited. All right, so here it is now. I remember, like, when I went out in the field, it warmed my heart, when somebody came up to me and was like, you know, say something nice, like, you've done something to them. Can you remember, like, an interaction you had with a man on the street that really made your day as a media person?
Yeah, I've had a few, and that's truth be told, that's where I feel most appreciated. You know, when you're in the streets and persons say, "Yo, keep up the good work, man," and you know, I love the work you've been doing over the years, and you know, so sometimes you might have had a tough day, and just one person just seeing you wherever it might be at the ATM. Yeah, I remember some years ago I did a courts ad, right? Ashley, you know, advertising Ashley furniture and so on. So I remember being at the ATM and this person, he saw me. You know, there's a line in that came up and he said, no man. He said, Ashley, come man, no man. So when he said Ashley, I said, what? He said, as I went inside the ATM, I said, oh, it's a court ad, you know? So, I mean, sometimes when we least expect, you know, persons, you know, show, you know, I highly appreciate it. And that's usually the best part of the day.
Yeah, for real. Bashan, what are you drinking?
Orange juice. I'll go for it in a second.
Till?
Gin and juice.
Put some rum in it, Bashan. Put some rum in it.
You give me rum?
Yeah, put some rum in it.
I don't have any.
Here.
Yeah.
Put some white. Yeah.
So for me,
Get the old flask.
Right. For me, I remember I was walking out of Lee's supermarket when I just got back from the UK, and somebody said, "Oh, you're back from school in the UK." I remember that episode of All Angles when Dion said you were leaving for a year. And you know, that really, really shocked me because I'm like, I was gone for a full year. Me not expect you to remember so much details of life. Somebody got to school and like that, somebody got to study media, and I mean, that was interesting for me. But another thing, like when I'm on the road and people point to specific work that they like, specific things. So for example, you did the court case involving the Lauriston beheading, and after the day you did the first story, you went back in the community and spoke to the people, and you did this and you did that, and you brought these things to light. That's very, very specific. And so it tells me that you're really, really paying attention. And so those things usually mean a whole lot to me.
Archie?
I don't think I have a specific thing like that. Apart from the bleaching phenomenon, especially when I went abroad and people were talking about it and they were really excited and saw the impact of something like that. Beyond, generally speaking, the moments I find most gratifying, well, they're a mixture of two. One has to do with when people are on like schools challenge. They were on junior schools challenge quiz, and they're like, you know, I was on junior schools challenge quiz, so it's a mixture of feeling old, but also feeling, like you made an impact on some things. I've seen like artists like Coffee who've been on junior school challenge quiz and Alkaline, and I'm seeing the old clips of that. That's really gratifying. That's very, very nice. Feels like you've been part of history, and as well. So it was bleaching phenomenon. It's actually hearing people like notice you because of the voice. Because I've always been very sensitive about my voice. So when people are like, and they're like, what? And they're like, I know you,
Yes.
especially not as a consequence of what you look like, but of what you sound like,
Right.
which I've never thought was very different, but apparently is different. That strikes differently because that feels really really good to hear other people say it, especially when you're not necessarily as secure about it as. You don't think there's anything special about it, but other people are like, "Oh my God, I like your voice." You're like, really? That's very nice. You're like, my voice? Okay. Well, maybe it's not that bad.
Yeah.
That's really, really nice. I enjoy that. That's what
All
I
right.
enjoy.
So I have two more questions before I go to the questions from persons watching on.
So
I
we're going
want
to see the
to
question then?
two more questions.
Okay.
I've been watching the news since I'm not involved in news anymore. I've been watching, and I really like the young set of journalists I see coming up. The Love, the Kalisha, Janella Soundalike, Cody.
Voice.
There's this, there's this young lady on CBM. I mean, we don't talk about them. Jamelia, I think her name is Jamelia something like that.
Maitland. Jamila Maitland, yes.
Yeah, man, she's really good. So I want to just pick your brain a little bit. And for you, Jerry, I'm talking about like the sports journalist. Can you name one person you see, like a fresh face you see coming on the scene, or where you say, yeah, the person they are going with things?
I've been fortunate to be surrounded by some gifted young journalists, sports journalists, over the years. Off the top of my dome, there is Jerome Foster, who persons wouldn't have seen on TV yet, but he works behind the scenes, and you'll hear more from him in time to come. Ronaldo Brown, persons I've seen are familiar with Jordan now, because he's been on for a few years as well. Who made his debut on TV, I think last week, because we have midday sports now on TV. Right, where we're only for 5 minutes. We're 5 minutes now, right? So, yeah. So those are, some of the younger ones who work alongside me, and who persons I know speak of and can feel confident in that the good work will continue for sure.
Bashan? Name your three if you have three.
So sure, some of those same people you mentioned. There's Javon Keys.
Yes, Keys. We're an Archie Soundalike. So there's a Janella Soundalike, and there's an Archie Soundalike.
Right.
Yeah, man.
There's Kodian. Sandy Williams, I also think, is one of those, impressive ones. And I mean, the work that Janella has been able to do with them on the midday news. So, see them doing lives on TV and seeming so comfortable. I mean, the first, Sandy and Cody did lives last week and the week before, and just how comfortable they seemed for their first time on TV in a live environment was just really, really impressive for me. But I work directly with Javon on a Sunday, for example, and I see the work that he's able to do independently. So I don't necessarily have to say, I want you to do this, I want you to do that. He comes with his ideas. These are the things that I want to do. These are the stories that I'm going to pursue. And that's always good in, any journalist, independent thinkers. People are going to be able to apply their own evidence and rigor to whatever they do. And I think that's important.
Archie?
Yeah, I have a bag of people. Of course, Keys at TVJ. They call him Little Archie, which I think is a disservice to him because he's you
let the Keys to your voice, man.
But Jamila Maitland at CVM as well, also doing really interesting work. I'm forgetting Williams' last name at Nationwide.
Brianna Williams. Brianna Williams.
Oh, no. It's
William Mitchell.
William Mitchell at Nationwide doing interesting work. Yeah, man, there's some good people out there. I think there's who else am I thinking of? There's just always people who are just always coming up and doing good stuff. I don't know if he's as young. Jovan Johns at the cleaner.
No, Jovan is young.
Jovan is young at all.
Jovan has been there.
Jovan's been there. But yeah, those are some of the people, it's lovely to see that the profession is, it's in good hands. Someone said Brittany Clark, from Nationwide News, definitely.
Yes, Brittany,
Clark.
yes.
I met her as an individual, really, really like her, love her, absolutely love her, energy as well. So yeah, Brittany and William from Nationwide. Steven Simmons is doing good work out there at Nationwide as well. There's Maitland at CVM. There is, there's a bag of young people who are doing good stuff.
Actually, do you know America? America Jones? That name rings a bell as a reporter.
I've heard. I don't. I'm not familiar with the young lady. I'm Marissa. Oh yes, and Tana Thomas. Absolutely, Tana Thomas. That's a Nationwide as well. Nationwide has a really nice crop of young people.
That's small.
You know what I like? I like the fact that these media houses, it's not just a TVJ, it's not just the big name ones now, like the RGR and the TVJ and the Gleaner, but you have these other media houses producing some really good journalists nowadays. Anyway, guys, take a sip. Time now for the hot seat.
You have to take a sip before the question.
Take a sip to calm your nerves. Take a sip to calm your nerves. Alright, so let me start it off. So, as men on cam, right, we know to get a whole heap of attention. What is the craziest thing someone has ever done to get your attention? Anyone of you can go first.
Well, I've had persons who turn up at TVJ in the lobby. One of the craziest ones was a lady turned up with her daughter a little bit, and she was telling me how she saw me at some event at the stadium, and she said hello, and she wants to get to know me, and she wants her daughter to know me, and it was just strange. It was a strange. And then I remember I was saying to the security afterwards that, listen, you could tell there's something off. Like, no man, don't announce my name as someone's come down to the lobby. When,
so
clearly.
She carried her daughter down there she's actually presenting her daughter to you.
Yeah. And there've been other instances too, but that one, really jumps out. Yeah, man. And then she came back again too. It was crazy. Oh, and of course, before, in the early days, there would be a lot of calls coming in. But, you just calling and asking for me, and sometimes I'm on the phone and I say, "Is this really Jermaine Brown?" And then they start screaming, "Ah!" Yeah, Oh, like, yeah. Yeah. So yeah, man.
So I generally don't give people my number. I mean, I'm always asked for my cell phone number, which I don't give. But the RGR switchboard is an easy one. I mean, all you need to do is to Google and get that. So there was one particular time over several months, this particular person would call the extension at my desk because I get to work. I don't know how people know what time I get to work. Probably people in the office would say he probably would be in by 1:30. But almost every day for over a month, the phone would ring at exactly 1:30 as I got to the desk. And it was just so weird because it happened consistently over several months until, I don't know, for some strange reason, people perhaps get the message after a while and then the phone stops ringing.
All right, Archie.
I had a pen pal once. They wrote me very long letters. And they called me on the phone, like handwritten letters, like and they called me on the phone. I'm forgetting her name. She was really, really nice. So we used to talk every now and then. She called the newsroom and just like, "Hey Archie, how you doing?" And we would just have, we'd have conversations. Apart from she was okay, but you know, a little oddish, but okay. I do have people who meet me on, people contact me on social media. I'm a very suspicious kind of guy. So people are like, oh, I want to be your friend. And I'm like, but I could be an asshole. How do you know if I'm, you know, why do you want to be my friend? Probably I'm an asshole. So I find that suspicious, generally speaking, but I am not, I can't say that I've had those horrid things. I've had the instances like Jermaine, where someone is like, you know, someone is here to see you out at the front of TVG, and I'm like, I don't know who that person is. I didn't tell them to come. Ask them what they want. You know, ask them what they want, why they're here to see me. I would, you know, that would be the kinds of things that
Archie,
that would be
Coffee
closest
saying,
to that.
Coffee saying she's a keeper. That one that gave you the handwritten note, she's a keeper because she's
No,
old
it was
school.
really, really nice. I'm just forgetting her name because she had such a nice, like handle kind of thing, and we used to have nice conversations. It was very nice.
All right, so hold on, questions now. So the first question, good skin. What is something that COVID has taught you? And yeah, you can jump on it. The easy questions coming in. You saw that one? Sorry, let me
Are the hard ones coming?
Well, let me put it back. Go ahead.
I think.
Do you want to start, Jermaine?
Yeah, it's simple. You know, always trying to take care of your money.
Your money.
Yeah, that's something. Yeah, take care of your money. You know, take care of. You never know what could happen. So, you know, if it is, you have the opportunity to earn a bit more right now and invest wherever you can, you do it, because what COVID has taught us is a disaster could just be around the corner, and it could draw upon the resources you have.
True.
You know, so take care of your business, take care of your money. Simple. For sure.
Should I move to the next question or let me move? So there are several questions. All right. Was there ever a time when you felt like you wanted to quit your job? Archie.
Yeah, right.
Archie.
Why you call me name? Why do I do this? Why the? I'd have to say after election before last. So that's election 2016.
February 2016. Yeah.
Yeah, election 2016 was really that was really, really difficult. I was not just doing election, you know, and doing the planning for election, but also handling several projects at the same time. We had a year in review. We had, I think I had a documentary I scammed. Shortly after the day after election, I went to the United States, across several states in the US, to do interviews with 26 people. So I had to be preparing for that in terms of writing all the interview questions, doing research on all of that while I was doing while I was running a newsroom, while I was being a news anchor. So I didn't have a lot of sleep. And I don't think people are really aware how competitive the local media space can be, especially for something like an election. The election is our Olympics, really. The election is a news Olympics. So it's a huge deal, and it turns on who calls the election first, and we didn't. And that was a whole lot of pressure and sort of a turning point, both in terms of preparing for it and, learning a lot about yourself in terms of delegating and stuff like that. I think after that, I experienced burnout, and that was sort of the end of it for me. I was like, okay, all right, cool. You need a break. Yeah, you need a break. That would have been, I would say, the roughest period I've had as an individual overall.
All right, next question, Bashan. This one is for you. If you don't want it, just sit. Oh, Archie, this one is yours. Dadrian. Archie, you're nice like rice. You're not stop look good.
Another question. When I work out this year, we're not getting any younger than Adrian. We're 41, so we're work out. Like, this is a year. I've been working out for about a year. It's a lot of work, getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning and stuff, but I enjoy it.
All right.
Come, Adrian. We go, Adrian.
Dadrian!
The biggest stress I've had in a year, you know. All right, never mind.
What is this? How do you cover up? I don't understand this one. So we'll skip this one. All right, the next question is fashion. Have you ever made a mistake while presenting? Roll it back.
Yeah, right. I spoke about one of them earlier on, which was the ice brick one. But I remember this other time I started reading midday news for the first time. Now, this is my first week on midday news. And, you know, you also want to make an impression. Like I tell you, the newsroom people never let things go. So I end up saying, girl. And when I came off the set, I think Deidre and the others were like, so what? Is that the pattern of girl? Oh, that go. Like, like, I don't understand the word. I mean, I corrected it because I was also nervous. I corrected it. But of course, that didn't stop the teasing. Oh gosh, I you know, they kept laughing about it for weeks. So that's one of the mistakes I made.
Okay. This one says, what would be your advice to young males looking to make something worthwhile of themselves? Jermaine?
You know, always believe in yourself. Always believe in yourself. Might sound simple and might sound cliche, but along the way you'll have persons who make you feel like you're not worth much or you don't belong. But always believe in yourself, and you know everything else will happen from there. You know, but always believe in yourself. Self-belief, belief kills and belief cures. Yeah, so believe in yourself.
Okay, this one is for you, Archie. Did anyone of you did reporting during the Tivoli Garden incursion? How was that experience?
No, I was actually I was running the shift on the Tivoli Garden incursion. So that's actually May 25th. I don't remember the year, but it was actually May 25th, and that was a Monday. So I was running the shift, and we heard of all of this. So that was the experience. That was really fantastic. I got the opportunity to be the anchor and also to send out people initially. Yeah, that was really my experience. I was sort of running the show and sort of figuring out who should go where, along with, of course, my colleagues, helping to figure out, I should say, rather, who should go where. So that was fantastic. I didn't go into the field. I was the anchor on duty. And the best experience I had at the point, I would say, over the period was the interviews that I did with Daryl Vaz and Desmond McKenzie at the time. I remember going somewhere to have some coffee and someone was like, oh, I really, really love your interviews. Those were really, really good. Because the issue, one of the issues at the time was, you know, how is it that people didn't understand that this was happening in downtown, in Tivoli Gardens? And I was asking and putting those sorts of questions to Desmond McKenzie and Daryl Vaz, and they came live on the set and didn't know they were coming live on the set. You know, you were on set and all of a sudden they're like, okay, you have a next guest, here's your guest. And all of a sudden you have to just come up with a question and come up with a sort of logical sequence of questions at the same time. So that was a really, really lovely experience. Lovely experience. You know, I wouldn't trade that for anything. And then also seeing my colleagues like Nadine McLeod. Carrie get in the car on the ground. Yeah. You know.
Carrie, did you or Vashon cover, were you guys involved in it? Because I know sometimes they pull sports to do news stories.
Yeah. As sports persons, yeah, we were told to report to broadcast house because we might be called upon, and because as persons might well know, where the sports reporters are concerned, we work right across the board. So you might see us during elections, you'll see us doing our coverage of hurricanes and so on. So yeah, I remember being at TVG at the time, just in case we were called upon to go in the trenches, because you know we're ready for anything, you know, as you know, sports people. But no, I don't think any of us eventually went out onto the road. But we were right there though, observing everything and waiting just in case.
Okay. Yeah. Who wants to take this one? Who is your media mentor?
Me? I'll take Dia Jackson Miller. Yeah. And I work with her now as well. You know, Dion's fantastic. there's one of those people who is misunderstood because people are like, oh my God, she's so miserable. But she's a she's a stickler for really, really good work. And she is really, really good with she's not necessarily like, you know, your hey kind of person. I would say she's an acquired taste and you are an acquired taste to her. She has to get to know you. But she is really, really a phenomenal mentor to young journalists. You know, I cannot think of a young journalist who's put their shoulder to the wheel and actually listened, who has not really, really done well under her tutelage and under her help. She's a real deal. She does the actual work. Every day, every interview, you know, the questions are written down. You know, a lot of people think they, you know, fly by the seat of your pants. That's not Deon. Deon does the work. She reads the documents. She writes down the questions. And especially in terms of, you know, like people like Bashan, and Bashan can speak to this. You know, there's Bashan, there's Kalisha, there's myself, there's Giovanni Dennis. You know, I was talking to a young lady recently on a training program that I'm involved in across the Caribbean, Chinese Gibbs, and she also had, you know, lovely words for Deon. You know, she will give you work to do, you know, and she'll say it as it is. And if you're one who is willing to take that kind of criticism, and to not take it personal, you'll grow under that. So she's had a ton of people who've gone on to excel, and Bashan is one example of that. Giovanni is one example of that, and there are tons of others.
All right, Bashan, I think Archie has responded for you. So
right, because he was actually the one who had put me to work with Deon at the time when he was the editor. And I ended up working with her on all angles for 4 years. I always tell her that I'm still her longest serving producer for that program.
Jerry,
I learned a lot throughout that experience.
Do you have a mentor on the sports side?
Well, naturally, you know, when I came into the business, you know, there were persons like Simon Croskett, who actually brought me in 06. He would have been head of sports at the time. You know, and Patrick Anderson have been there. But it's more of, you know, you learn as you go along, and before you realize what's happening, you're patterning yourself off persons who have been in the business, you know, until you create your own style and you know. So it's a matter of, when I came in, you know, there were those veterans who were there, and it was a matter of just observing them and learning from them. Mm-hmm. So those are two. So those are two who I would definitely have learned from. Yeah.
All right. This question: did any of you? Oh no, this. Oh, sorry, that one came up already. Are you married? Get your glass, just in case. Are you married? If not, would you? Any of you? Y'all don't come rushing one time. Jeremy,
that's a single question.
Can I answer what answer?
That's a single question. No, I'm not married.
Hold on. Who's sipping? Yeah. Who answer? What
no, I'm not married, but
finish here. All right, Archie and Jeremy.
No, I'm not, but yes, I would get married.
Jerry.
Yeah, no, I'm not, but I do believe in the institution of marriage. Yeah.
All right.
Because we're married for close to 50 years, so you know, they set that example for me. So it'd be remiss of me not to mention that, you know, having witnessed it myself, albeit, you know, I was the last one from my parents, but for the years I did observe them, you know. Yeah.
Likewise, my parents were married for very long as well. So you know, I also believe in the institution. It's work. It's work.
Yeah.
All right. I have to filter some of the questions. So some questions I won't ask. Guys, let me just say something. If you're going to put in questions, you have to be respectful of my guests, okay? All right. Have you ever stretched the truth in your stories? Any of you?
Never.
No embellishments. We stick to the facts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
Never.
look.
Never ever.
Yeah, no embellishments. No.
But Jeremy, how much work goes into preparing for sports and those unique names?
You know, a lot goes into it, you know. Persons sometimes believe that, for instance, for myself, they say, oh, so you just turn up and you just go on TV. But there's a whole lot goes on before that in terms of you might have to go out and cover a sporting event, or you might have a story working on and you have to go out and do your interviews and you come back. And just like the person who's in news, you have to go through your interviews, take out which sound bites you're going to use, have your story read over by the editor. And then the final product is, of course, the delivery.
Mm-hmm.
It's very important because you don't want to spend all day working on a story and then the delivery is effed up. Right? But before you get to the actual product being delivered, there's a process that goes into it.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot goes on. We have what we do too. We have an in-house style too in terms of the pronunciations for certain names. So especially those names which are more common. So each of us as presenters, when we go on, we present it the same way. So you don't hear Jeremy presenting it, pronouncing it one way, then Jordan pronouncing it another way, and so on. So we do agree upon a certain way how we'll pronounce certain names which are more common.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So that we're all on the same page. You know, so there are intricacies to it. It's not just, you know, presenting and telling you the results of a match and what have you. And, you know, there's a whole lot that goes on before you hear all of that.
All right, this one is for all three. Being always on the microscope, what do you do or not do to let the criticisms get the better of you? Give Jeremy a rest. Vashon or Archie?
Okay, so I'll start this one. For me, my starting point is always assessing first whether there is merit and to see whether there is something that can be improved, because on the face of it, I don't think criticism is a bad thing. So I usually internalize and see how I can improve from that. But I also do another assessment. I mean, there is constructive criticism and there is just
foolishness.
Right, and the nasty rhetoric and the attempts to just bring you down. And, you know, I think, you know, we can decide which side of that binary the criticisms fall. But yeah, I do that kind of assessment, and at the end of the day, I see how I can improve.
All right.
I'm very deliberate about who I follow. So I don't follow people I don't just follow people that I agree with, but I do follow people that have contrasting opinions, but know how to express them without making them personal. Because there's a difference between having an argument about an issue and having an argument about me. So if you're going to be one of those people who is like, you know, have no sense, as a lot of people are on social media, I'm not like that. So I limit my exposure to that, and I curate my space, but I'm also very cognizant of being in a bubble. Because, you know, especially in a newsroom and in certain sort of circumstances, groupthink is very much a thing. And you don't want to limit yourself to one way of seeing the world. So I will follow people who I consider to be very smart, who I consider to have to sort of take a critical look at the issues, but not in a personal way. You know, it's not no sense.
Still on you, Archie. This one is for you. Archie, why did you leave mainstream journalism?
I thought it was time. I mean, I did mainstream journalism for a long time.
Archie, tell them the truth.
Which is what? What is the truth?
Money,
Actually, no, it was the money that made me leave mainstream journalism. Because I was a news editor, you know, and I was a news anchor, so I was not poorly paid. Let's put it like that.
Okay.
I was not poorly paid in relation to what people get paid in the media. Let me just be clear. In relation to what people get paid in the media, I wasn't poorly paid because I ran a newsroom and I was also a news anchor. So, you know, I wasn't poorly compensated. And I didn't leave for more money. I got basically the same pay, but I got additional, like, traveling at a new place. I think I'd worked in journalism for a while, and I was sort of tired of doing the same thing, and I'd experienced a great sense of burnout. And I was made a really good argument, which was that I was going to come to what was a construction site. So Dara, you know, tell them, sir, you put me on to the people them when we left go to. You know, tell them, Dara called me and say, Archie, such and such a place is looking such and such a thing. Can they talk to you? And I was like, all right, cool. I tell them for you. And I had a conversation, and someone said to me, look, we're bringing into a construction site. And at the point in my career, I could understand what that meant, which was, you know, it's dust and it's all of that, but it was also an opportunity to do new things. You know, you create new systems when you're in a place. Yeah. When you go to a place that has no systems, you get to do everything. There's very little limit on what you can do. So when you're finished, your resume can have 20, 30, 40 different things. It's like, you did this and that and that and that and that and that. And that's very, very exciting to me.
All right, this question now. For everybody, what is that skill you have that may be surprising to others? Jerry? Jerry, I see. No, Jerry. Okay. Jerry, did you sit that one out?
No, I'll answer.
Okay.
I'll answer. So someone had asked about COVID earlier. No, something that COVID taught me, which I had forgotten for a while, is like cooking, you know, and how therapeutic that is. Because I started cooking more during COVID. Having gone to TVJ from JIS, I used to cook more then. But at TVJ, being at TVJ, it's far more hectic, far more demanding. So that side, you know, took a backseat. But during COVID, I started, you know, cooking and exploring that side, and I found it stimulating. You know, sometimes even I was not having the best of days, and I had to cook. It helped me to put my energies elsewhere and be creative and so on. And you know, so yeah, I like to do a bit of cooking these days.
Basha?
Yeah.
It's similar to German, actually. Yeah, COVID. No, but it's the first time I'm actually living by myself. Within the past year and a half, I've never lived by myself until now. You know, so when you live with people, you get food. But then I live with somebody, you wonder, what go on? How you gonna eat? And so, I've been forced, not just because of COVID, but because I also live alone now, I've been forced to actually cook for myself. And so I do a lot of cooking. I also try to, you know, say the gym thing, Dara, you need to limit the eating out. And so I also try to cook more because of that. And you don't know, say, summer come up and get it.
And you work for the summer body. Archie, what about you?
Children are going to be watching this program, so.
You said, ooh, no, sir. That one is serious. All right.
Safe up, I leave it.
Vashon has gone one, said Archie one, and Jermaine one. All right.
Yeah.
Archie, how would you describe Emily Shields?
Oh, I love Emily.
I love her.
Emily. Yeah, I had the opportunity to work with Emily Shields on Beyond the Headlines. She was a relief anchor back in the day. And what I like about Emily is, and this is what I generally like about journalists overall, I like when you have a unique opinion. So Emily is the kind of person who everyone's sort of really right here, and Emily is over here. But she has a way of bringing a new perspective to an issue. I love Emily. Emily is like one of my favorite people. As a journalist, she's always interesting to listen to. She always brings a new perspective to something. It is not the thing that you would expect. You know, the late Martin Henry was like that. Martin Henry was on a program once and they were like, what are the big challenges Jamaica have? And everyone was like, oh, you know, crime and unemployment. And Martin was like, public order. That's what Emily is like. Emily is the kind of person who's going to give you something that's completely different. But when she goes out and she makes the argument about how it's supposed to be, She came to make a solid argument, and she's so much fun.
She
She's fun
is.
to listen to. She engages with people on hotline. People love her, and she has a really, really nice energy. You know, yeah. Emily,
Right. And
Emily. Me like Emily. Long time. Long time. From Nationwide days until she came to RJR. Long, long, long time.
Yeah, and just how she outlines that kind of process. So even if you
Yes.
disagree with her, she spends the time and she goes through the arguments and she tells you step by
Yes.
step how she arrives at her
Absolutely.
position. And that kind of process is also important.
Absolutely. This is why I think this. I think this
Right.
and that and that and that. That the rigor that she brings to that. Love it. Absolutely love it.
Masha, that question is yours.
Uh, I don't. I think there are always new challenges. There are always new things to take on. You know, I always think that whenever you think that your job is easy, maybe that's an indicator of something else, that you also need to find new challenges and, you know, find. So I don't think my job is easy. Yeah.
All right. I like good skin. I like your questions. As I kind of wrap up, because I don't want to keep these guys on for too long. I love this question. And you know why I love this question? I love it in relation to when Michael died the other day. I mean, everybody echoed the same thing about him being a mentor for people and everything like that. This question, how do you want to be, what do you want to be remembered for? And it's for all three. Jerry?
Yeah, that I want to be remembered as someone who is genuine, you know, even in being a journalist, you know, bringing that genuineness to it, and someone who, where as far as sports journalism is concerned, as someone who, you know, who sought to make the job attractive, you know, for persons looking on. Sometimes it might not look as enticing, but I want to be remembered as someone who, you know, made the job attractive for sure, and who by doing the work and doing it well and adding style to it.
Fashion?
I mean, on the face of it, I'll say somebody who does good work. So whether it is presenting, whether it is documentary making, whether it is long form reporting, just, you know, just the kind of rigor and analysis that I put to things, just overall good work. But outside of journalism itself, I've now been doing some academic work, and I've been invited to, you know, a number of academic conferences. I think that kind of work is also valuable because I also want to be remembered for just spending the time to dissect Jamaican journalism and media in Jamaica and sort of helping us understand what's happening in the landscape also through that kind of academic work.
Right. Archie?
Well, a mixture of two things. I think from the academic perspective as well, you know, that's what I'm involved in more than anything else nowadays. I'm involved in training activities. Dion and I do training together, and we've done training for a couple of different agencies. So I'm interested in communication and how people communicate and what they say and how they, you know, how they go about constructing messages and, you know, messaging overall. So I want to create a sort of space there where people can understand how to do that better. In addition to that, as a boss, as an individual, as someone who supervises people, I want to be remembered much in the same way as Sharp, you know, as someone who helps to sort of foster people and to teach them, you know, to help them to excel themselves. At my heart, I'm not so much as a journalist as a teacher. And I think in much of what I've done, I've sort of tried to do that, to be a teacher within journalism. And I thoroughly enjoy that. You know, that is what excites me the most. And when I see people who I have, you know, either help hire or work with excel, you know, me feel good. Me feel really, really good.
Really true. Good. You know, Archie, me not here no lie. I gave you a rough time while you were my editor. I will leave a back chat. But
that's just you.
Where's the match?
That's what you are.
Eh?
That's just you. That's who you are. You ever have some chat.
You're competitive. That's what you're like. And that's okay.
It was me, Archie. Archie had to deal with Janella. He had to deal with Dara. He had to deal with Krista. He had to deal with Shamela, Nadine.
Nadine.
Jeez, Archie, how you manage?
I just had. I didn't feel like that though. You know, I felt like, you know, I feel like I was working with a lot of people who had who are very different in different ways. I tell the story often that once I did an analysis of TVJ Newsroom because I wanted to do different things, and for Dara I wrote Dara. Dara wants to dance on her competitors' grave. That's what I wrote. Tombstone. You know, that's what Dara is like. And for me, everybody brings something really, really unique to the process. You know, Kirk wants to tell really beautiful human interest stories. You know, sometimes I remember I tell this story like a million times. Kirk ears must be ringing off. Kirk tell me one time he want to do a story about, you know, South Camp Road, and I'm like, you know, yeah, there's bush going in the middle of the road, and I'm like, that don't make no sense. But you know what? That's what I'm saying in my head. But I understand that he has a knack for telling particular kinds of stories. And he comes back and he produces this story that just took so many hours to do because it was how the bush in the middle of South Camp Road was preventing people when they're driving across. And to get the perfect moment, he would have had to spend hours doing it. You know, when I worked with Jebinson loved attacking politicians.
Jebinson!
Yeah, you know, Janella loves telling human interest stories. That's just it for me. Every single person, and even when I do training, I emphasize this. There is something really wonderful about each individual, and each individual brings something unique to a process. And when you bring all of that together as a team, and that team click on something like a hurricane or a cartel trial.
Murder.
Hey,
remember when we did the bus fight down there?
Hey, you go home, and you know, nothing feels that good. It's just like, it's bliss. You feel like everybody has done there, and in those moments, in the most difficult moments, the most challenging moments like elections and, you know, the cartel trial and all of those things when people have to be at their best. I've done an election with the sports team where I think the sports team, and I'm going to say this right now, beat the news team.
Yeah.
People like Adrian Brown and so forth, and them go, Jermaine was in Clarendon, them go and they kick the news team's ass in terms of how they did the reporting. It's true. Adrian Brown had one of the best reports ever, I thought. In terms of the perspective he took to the issue of how people arrange things on election days. When that newsroom and sports room runs together on a big issue, hey, you go home, you feel good.
Yeah,
you feel
there's
good.
a side to the whole.
Yeah, you feel good. It's like there's just storytelling, and everybody's telling their story in the way they tell stories best. Not sweet like that. You go, man, you're sweet. You sleep good. You sleep good.
All right. Three Jamaican artists you can play in your car. You play in your car.
I won't go first.
Let me put Vashan first because Vashan not much. Vashan, name 3 Jamaican artists that you play in your car.
I mean, Coffee, Lena IK,
Hey.
and one more. Oh, Chronic.
Okay, all right.
Deja said Dexter.
Deja, you need that. Do you bet Deja?
I don't know who that is.
Jermaine.
Yeah, well, I love my dancehall, you know, and so I listen to a wide array of dancehall music. So right now, I'm listening to Ricky Tal. Motherfucker, give me the news for the wrong things these days. But yeah, Ricky Tal is new. I'm in the same camp with Skilly Bang.
Yeah.
Intense. So I like listening to some of the new artists. I mean, just to find out what the hype is all about and so on. Of course, like my cartel and so on. So and I'm a rap and hip hop kind of person too, you know. So Lil Wayne, 50 Cent, that kind of thing. So I'm that kind of person when I'm driving, at least.
Okay, Archie.
Okay, so I'm slightly slack. So I love Dexter Dabs. You know, I love Dexter Dabs. I absolutely love Dexter Dabs. I love people who challenge the narrative because that's really, really hard to do. You know, it's hard to do that in a society where we expect certain things. I love Dexter Daps. I love Vibes Cartel. You know, like Court Case is that's one of my current favorites, and it's an old story. And Mr. Officer, I think that's just absolute poetry in terms of how he tells it. He goes from the past to the future. You know, the rhyme or whatever. That's classic English. Vibes Cartel is a master at language. And Lila Ike, oh God, you know, Lila Ike is. Yeah, Lila, I can tell me story them. Solitude, Forget Me, those
That will be done.
That
will be done.
Yeah, that is my vibe. That's so beautiful. It's beautiful.
I thought I was introducing you guys. I thought I was introducing you guys to the world because we know them. But Archie, me never know say you're Dexter up and Vibes Cartel.
You remember when I sit earlier?
Yes.
All right, so Dexter Dabs. That's good stuff. It's really, really good music. It's good music, and it's music that challenges the narrative. Because it's hard, like Lady Saw, just like Lady Saw, it's hard to stand out in the opposite way. You know, because everybody is like, and Spice, I love Spice. Love Spice. Love Spice.
Can you dance, Archie?
Soca. Can wine.
German?
Yeah, I can do my little thing, man.
What is that? What is your little thing?
But hey, so whatever the latest dance move is, we try to learn it. And I have a daughter who she loves dancing some more time, and she attitude and she teach me some new things. And yeah, so whatever the latest dance move is, I like to at least learn it for the moment. You know? Yeah. So I'm like that.
Fashion?
I think so. I see Debbie write in the comments. Debbie writes in the comments saying, "Allow me to tell me to listen to them artists that only listen to soca," but that is not true. But I do listen to some soca, and you know, I can do some soca moves.
Okay.
Would you like me to do some for you now, Dara?
Say that again.
Wait. I want to go and find a trigger.
I'm joking.
Go ahead, Fashion. Entertain us.
Absolutely not. I'm joking.
All right.
So Archie has a big face. Maybe Archie can do it.
Do any of you three hang out together outside of work? Nah.
I don't have any time, and then we work near airport. But you know, I do see Bashan occasionally. I don't see Jermaine as much. Only when we go into the newsroom.
All right, so
yeah.
I'm skipping. I'm just allow me a minute to just skip across some of these questions. Here, one sec. I know you answered this, but I'm just buying some time. What was the most? No, because you answered this already. Take a sip, guys. Take a sip. Oh, Vashon. What other Caribbean island would you see yourself working in as a journalist?
Barbados. I like to work on CMC. I definitely work at CMC in Barbados. I actually do like Barbados. So Barbados is my thing.
Archie, what's going on with the camera, Archie?
Oh, man, turn it upside down.
blame it on the...
He's drinking too much.
Blame it on what's in his cup.
Drink some more, Archie. Drink some more. Okay. Do you like... Oh, this one is a good one. So this one, no, I saw it earlier, and ready? Here it is. Right now, come on. Have any of you guys ever been treated differently while out in public? For example, the airport or the bank. I don't know why it's not coming. Oh, see there. Yes, go ahead. Jermaine?
Well, you know, that's sort of the perks that come with the job, you know. Especially when you're outside of the actual newsroom or sports department, and yeah, you might be at the bank and persons recognize you and they might say, all right, you know, we know you're busy, man, you know, we know you have to go back to work. You haven't even said that, but they're telling you why. Yeah, they might give you a skip on the line still, you know, or you know, police might stop you on the road and you know. I'm so sportsman. Been good though. And they start talking about some kind of, you know, reggae boys not good enough. And if tell them so everybody not good, and, you know. So them forget it by them stuff here. Them say, carry on, but they're good, but so yeah, man, that's all the good perks, you know. Yeah.
Archie?
Yeah, I'm not even sure I should say this because I want to continue to get fewer traffic tickets, but I do get fewer traffic tickets.
Really?
I do. Well, I obviously talk a lot, so I can talk myself out of most things. But yeah, I do. People do tend to ask. Well, first of all, people think I'm Jermaine Brown and Kirk Wright and Garfield Burford.
Oh gosh!
Because they see you're familiar.
Yeah,
they ask you things about other people, and then you engage them in a discussion about that. So there's that. Yeah, people are nicer. I generally find that people are nicer.
For the most part, there's some who might try to exalt themselves too, including the police. I might decide, say, no, not because you're the way David.
Some police officers who give you
the same way. Like a police woman gave me 2 tickets, 5 grand tickets. I said, Jesus.
Really?
I was surprised. Yeah.
Have you guys ever pull this line yet? Do you know who I am?
No. Ever. Me too.
Never.
I would shame if somebody said no.
Yeah, like this.
No, I don't do that at all.
Never.
All right. So this one. Which do you prefer and why? Out in the field, anchoring, producing, or calling the shots as a supervisor? Archie, is that yours?
I'm not a good reporter, am I? I prefer. It depends. I really, really like talking to people. I don't necessarily enjoy the rigors that come with getting to get to talk to people. So, you know, like getting a car, getting a vehicle, trying to find a vehicle, driving necessarily. But I enjoy conversation. So I enjoy meeting people and I enjoy talking to people. I enjoy that most. So sort of, I guess, producing and calling the shots as a supervisor. I'm an ideas person. So I have, you know, 20 million ideas of how you can do a story. And I'm constantly learning. I'm constantly listening to things. I listen to tons of things every morning. So I'm constantly exposed to new ideas. And I'm coming up with new ways of doing a story on the basis of what I've learned, on the basis of stuff like that. So I enjoy that the most.
All right. So I want to 6 minutes to go. So let me just put this one up. All are single and all are ready to mingle. That's a question.
I will answer that.
Who wants sip? Who wants answer? Okay, so answer then. Come in, so nobody drop them glass. Vashon.
Yes, I'm single. So you can also, I mean, the DMs are open.
Jeremy.
Well, single by style, but I'm occupied, you know.
Well, you just
Yes, sir. Archie.
No, I've not been single in years. I'm not single.
By the way, as I wrap up, what's an ideal date for you guys? Whatever the sipping, Jeremy. What is an ideal date?
But does I keep the spirit going? You know, yeah.
I'm not starting with Vashon because I started with Vashon before. Jeremy, what is an ideal date?
An ideal date involves not even necessarily going out, you know. I mean, you might, if like I said, I'm into cooking now, so you know, you cook, and you know, you have that quiet time, you know, at home, you know, and really getting to know someone, you know, without all the frills, and because sometimes, you know, at least maybe for persons like us, when you go, whoever you're with, they might at times feel disconnected because, you know, maybe person's looking and since you're out on a date, but someone might come across and they might want to meet you, and sometimes they interrupt the flow, you know, just when something about to happen, you know. So yeah, so an ideal, I think, you know, is being at home and, you know, just being genuine, you know. Yeah.
Archie?
Yeah, I'm a homebody and I love television. So that's something like a movie. I'm sort of like a movie flex. Um, I love food. So something that involves food and that can be internal or external. I love going out. And I love time in anything that involves water. So a river, a beach. I absolutely love the river and beach. I mean, that's one of the worst things about COVID. You can't go river and beach even though they're open now. I love anything that involves a journey, a long journey. A lot of people don't like driving. I think that's
Yeah,
absolutely
those cross country trips.
yeah,
Yeah.
man. I will drive. I will drive, and I love being driven. I love the wind. That's when I think. That's when I relax. And because I have so little time, I'm always moving from activity to activity to activity. I really enjoy time with people. I enjoy time with people. That's an ideal date for me. Something that's like a movie, cooking, or traveling.
Fashion?
I'm a pretty simple person, and so I, you know, prefer the typical going to a restaurant. I'm just developing a love for cooking, as I said earlier, but I still do. I still don't like it. Some, something that involves, you know, a nice restaurant, beachfront view. Uh, yeah, that's pretty much it for me.
All right, so as we wrap up, what is that parting shot you want to leave with those on the live? You know, I mean, I really enjoy talking to you because although I've worked with you guys for years, you know, I'm learning some different things about you. I mean, what would that be, that one parting shot you want to tell a young journalist now who may be on, and you know, just maybe look up to you as a mentor for everybody?
Oh, sorry.
Archie, you see?
I was killing an ant. No, I was paying attention.
Bashan, let me talk. Bashan, you first.
Sorry, I got distracted. What was that?
Okay. As we wrap up, what would be your final words to like a young journalist on right now, you know, who may look up to you as a mentor?
About, you know, coming into journalism?
Just anything.
I would say read a lot, because I find that, you know, the strength of any good journalist is to just know what's happening around you. I think that's at the core, very, very basic thing that, you know, you should have coming to the table. But also just even outside of your field. So don't just read about things in media and communication, but just read widely and do a whole lot of research. And I think that can help you in honing your skills as an upcoming journalist.
Jeremy?
Always look to be improving on yourself. Try not to become complacent. And always look ahead. You know, always look ahead. And like I said before, believe in yourself. It might sound simple, it might sound cliche, but it goes a far way in you achieving what you want to achieve out of whatever field it might be, including journalism.
Archie?
Do everything. You know, when I was growing up, there was TVJ and JVC, not TVJ, the precursor to TVJ, and it locked off at a certain time of day. Now people have so many avenues to be able to do things. So people are always asking me about getting into traditional media, for instance. And I'm like, okay, cool, that's fine. And, you know, that's lovely. Those are still huge audiences. But, you know, you can write your blog. You can do a YouTube channel. You can do a podcast. Your idea, you know, can serve the world. So you can do absolutely anything. And you can experiment with it and you can figure out what it is. You can figure out whether it works, whether it doesn't work. You can get feedback at a different kind of level. Do everything. So do not wait there's no time. There's not going to be a time in the future to do it. The point to do it is right. Really, really, really now. Do it right now, experiment. And as you are doing that, learn. You know? So read, listen to as much as you can. Because a lot of the content that's being produced around the world is, you know, it's similar sort of content. And the more you learn about what's happening, not just in your neck of the woods, but across the world, is the more that you can put together and apply and put together your ideas and create new ideas. And that's what it's all about. Learn, experiment, and do it right now. So I teach at NCU. I teach young journalism students, and they're like, oh, you know, how do I get into TVJ? How do I get to CBN? And I'm like, okay, cool. That's fine. That's a nice plan too. But what you're doing right now, you have a blog, you have a YouTube page, you know, are you doing something on Instagram? What you want to do. There's nothing preventing you from being able to do that. You're your own studio. And that is a revolutionary idea for people like us who came from well, not like Vashan, because Vashan a young man, but maybe like Jermaine, who came from an era when you had one TV station. You know what I mean? One TV station. How much is there to watch now? There's so much content. So if you want to do something, do it right now. Right now. Nothing's preventing you from doing it. Yeah. Nothing preventing you from doing it. Do it right now.
I love this.
Don't limit yourself.
I know there are several questions, and I know persons may want to connect with you guys after. Archie, I know you have launched your business. People don't realize that media is just the starting point to bigger and better things. So I'm gonna give each of you 30 seconds to just say, you know, how people can connect with you. If you know, what else are you doing apart from media? Are you doing anything else that people can get involved in? Vashan?
So I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. My Instagram name you'll see. I'm also on Twitter as my full name, Bashan Brown. Facebook I hardly use. But yeah, that's how you can connect with me. I'm not doing the fancy things that Archie's doing with training and all this. I'm still confined to one media house at the moment. But no worries, other things develop. You know, Dara, your viewers will be the first to know.
Oh, thank you. Jeremy?
Yeah, oh, by the way, the handle you see there now, that was only created for this because I had some issues connecting earlier. So it's Jeremain, JEREMAIN _ 007 for Instagram. I'm on Twitter at Jeremain.
Can somebody just write that out for me, please, so they get it right? Because that's the one I have.
Yeah. So it's Jeremain. Yeah, Jeremain _ 007. Yeah, that's my Instagram page. You know, and I'm on Twitter too, and I'm available for, you know, those commercials and those.
Don't talk so loud. Let me get to that trailer.
Much like Bashan, I'm still confined to a particular contract, but yeah, we're not thinking limits, you know. So, right. But so if you want to connect with me, Jeremain _ 007. I'm on Twitter as well, at Jeremain Brown, and I'm on Facebook too. You know who it is.
Archie, so I'm giving you the time now to plug your company.
So I'm sorry, H4 Synergy as well. You can, they're on Instagram too, and you know they are also, you know, creating a nice platform for me. So yeah, H4 Synergy too. Yeah.
Yes, I'm on all of those platforms, but Facebook is the one that I answer the least. It's Archibald Gordon on Facebook. I'm Archibald K Gordon. That's ARCHIBALD K Gordon on Instagram. I'm Archibald Keen. That's my middle name. That's ARCHIBALDKEANE on at Archibald Keen on on Twitter, and I'm also on LinkedIn. So if you want to get me, I'm on LinkedIn most of the time, on Instagram generally all of the time, and on Twitter most of the time. I've launched a new training. I've launched my new communications company, as you know. I'm transitioning, working in the public sector, but also doing work on the side when I have time. Archibald Gordon Communications, that's doing some of the work. So some of the work that was done recently with the public ombudsman office, that's work that I've done. I've worked with, you know, British Council. And Dion and I have launched a new training. Dion Jax Miller and I have launched a new training initiative. So we train small groups at companies. We train, we do coaching, and we also do, we're going to be doing a series of master classes. People can see that on our pages as well on July 10 and 11. So, you know, that's what we're doing. We're branch out. We're following Kalila Enriquez. Let's make the money.
Yeah, let's make that money.
Let's make the money.
Yeah. All right.
That's
So
what we are.
the guys, you're sending in the questions, but you just have to link up Archie Fashion and Jermaine at their different handles, and you know, just continue the conversation.
Yeah.
Guys, I want you to sign out for me now because hold on, Live with Dara is about to wrap. You can catch this episode and many others on YouTube. All right. So and it's Live with Dara. Just go, and please, can you go and give me a follow? Go subscribe for me now, please. I really appreciate it. Archie, may I try to reach a 1,000 mark, and it's the most difficult thing to reach 1,000.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
Yeah. Guys, please go give me a subscription or go and go subscribe to my YouTube channel, Live with Dara, and you can see this episode and many others last week with the ladies and many other episodes on my YouTube page. And of course, you can follow me here on IG Dara. Oh, and by the way, we just joined TikTok. Me and Archie on TikTok.
Yeah, man, I about everything, but I cannot pay attention to TikTok. TikTok is way too addictive. It's such good stuff. It's amazing, and there's TikTok learning and all of that. I cannot log on to TikTok. I'll never get off.
Can't keep up.
No, too much.
Yes, it's craziness. So guys, as we wrap up, I want you to sign off though. Give me your best sign-in voice, whether it's the radio or TV voice, you know. And Fashion Q.
I am Fashion Brown. Good night.
Lord, just dry some fashion.
I don't know, you always start with me, so I don't know what kind of way I look for.
I'm Jermaine Brown, and you're tuned in to Live with Dara.
Yeah.
My name is Archibald Gordon. This has been Live with Dara. It's been delightful to have you on. By the way, I'm doing profile. Did I tell you that? That's breaking news.
I heard about that. Yeah.
Starting when?
Yeah.
Starting in July, I'll be taking over the mantle for TVJ's profile.
Go! No, guys, you hear it here. Oh, that is awesome.
Yeah. Hey, don't forget us today.
Well, no,
I'm
my profile.
That is so good, Archie. Congrats to you. That is awesome. Really good.
So this is Live with Dara. This has been Live with Dara. I'm Archibald Gordon. This has been an absolutely amazing experience.
Love it.
Next week, same time.
Yeah, same time, same place. Live with Dara. Guys, thank you so much. Have an awesome night. Guys, thank you for being here for the last 2 hours and 40 minutes. I really appreciate it. All right? Take care.